I'm currently hiding in my closet, shaking in fear. I'm typing this out on my phone, so I'm sorry if there's a formatting issue or grammar, but I don't really give a damn right now. In case I don't make an update to this post, please report this to the authorities or anyone. Please, I don't know what to do. During April of 2018, I adopted a 5-month-old puppy from the pound. I was lucky enough to get her out of that hellhole and into my loving home. She was a border collie mix and her name was Nellie. I don't know what the damn happened to her, but what I have now is not my dog. She was a timid little pup when I first took her home. I remember she was inside for not even 5 minutes before she peed on the carpet. I could only laugh and kiss her because I was so happy. She slept in my bed that night and for many more nights to come. She only weighed maybe 6 or 7 kilograms when I first picked her up. The months that followed were amazing. For the first time since I graduated high school, I was over the moon. Every day when I got home from work, she would rush to greet me with her lead dangling from her mouth, her tail wagging wildly. She absolutely loved to grab the newspaper from the mailbox with me. She was also an awesome chick magnet, but that's beside the point. She loved my neighbor, a nice man named Paul whose wife had recently passed away from breast cancer. He was an older gentleman, well into his 50s, but never looked a day over 40. He liked to throw a barbecue for the few neighbors we had in our little rural community. He always made an effort, so we all returned the favor with bringing food and beer. Things began to change in December of 2018. In the early hours of the morning, on the 5th I believe, Nellie woke me up. I grabbed my glasses from the bedside table and flicked on the lamp. She was stood about a meter from the door, pointing right at it. I could hear a low growl emanating from her. Curious, I got out of bed and opened the door. To her surprise, there was nothing there. I thought that would have been the end of it. A few more days passed, and on the 9th it happened again. Early hours of the morning and pointing at the door. This continued for the next week. I believe this is when Nellie disappeared. At about 2 AM on the 21st, Nellie woke me up and wanted to go outside. She would do this once every few weeks, so it was nothing out of the ordinary. She would wake me up by licking my face and then skulk and lay down in front of the door if I wouldn't get up. Behind my backyard is a forest that extends for miles. Sometimes Nellie liked to hunt down rabbits and possums when we would go for a walk through the woods. When I let her out at night, she walked about 5 meters before the tree line. I watched her pee and she started her way back to the house. This is when things didn't go exactly as planned. She must have heard something because she whipped around and pointed at the trees and growled. I thought it might have been a rabbit, but thinking back on it now, it was probably something much worse. She barked, then made a beeline for the trees. She disappeared into the thickness before I heard more barking. Then nothing. Absolute silence. I was about to grab a torch and put on my red bands, but then the tree started rustling. There was no wind. It was distressing to say at the least. Then it stopped. I called out her name and waited. About a minute later, she wandered out of the trees and back inside. I thought nothing of it and promptly went back to sleep. I should have thought about it. As the months continued, things got weird. She stopped wanting to go on walks. She cut back on her food and began to get skinnier. I decided to change up her diet from dog biscuits to meat. She liked that. She really liked that. Sometimes she would run off into the woods to go hunting for rabbits or anything she could get her paws on. I also noticed that she began to get bigger. Not fat bigger, because as she got bigger, it looked like she got skinnier. Then she stopped playing with her toys. That weirded me out the most because her beloved squeaky dog toy I got her for the first day she came home was always with her inside the house. Now it lay gathering dust in the corner of my room. But she began to show a liking to the barbecue get-together Paul would throw. Honestly, that should have been a warning sign. That day was the 26th of February 2019. In the following weeks, people unfortunately died. It was small to begin with. That makes it sound better than it was. Old people died at first. As sad as it sounded, we all thought it was because of the old age. Then we got the details. Horrific details. They were murders. Violent and bloody murders. We were absolutely shit scared then. Paul and I started communicating a lot more than we used to. A text every hour or so just to check in, or maybe a phone call or two. He told me I should keep the key for my gun safe in the lock in case of an emergency. I listened. I listened because I trusted him. I listened because he was one of my only friends. This brings us to tonight, the 24th of March. I awoke to the sound of gunfire. I rushed over to my curtains and yanked them open. Paul's house was on fire. I immediately rushed to put on some thick clothes and grabbed a flashlight and my phone, ready to dial 111 for a fire truck. At the time, I didn't even notice my bedroom door was open when I clearly remember closing it before I went to bed that night, nor did I notice Nellie was missing. I yanked open my back door and I froze. It was illuminated by the bright fire of Paul's home. It stood on its hind legs, tall and lanky, completely black with white highlights all over its body. The eyes were almost a glowing red. Its claws were massive. And sadly, one set was clear protruding from Paul's chest. I actually don't know. It felt like so long ago, even though it was only about an hour ago. I couldn't feel a thing. I couldn't even feel the flashlight slip through my fingers and land heavily on the concrete ground of my back patio. I instantly realized my mistake and I saw it look at me. It looked deep into my eyes and that's when I saw her. Her, my sweet, sweet girl. My Nellie. Or more rather, what was pretending to be Nellie. It dropped Paul to the ground and terrifyingly reared its head into the air and howled deeply. It sounded like a mix between the sound of absolute pain and what I could only describe as Lupin's howl from Prisoner of Azkaban. That was the only motivation I needed to run. I hauled ass into my bedroom and dived into my closet and shut the door. I covered myself in dirty washing and stayed still. It felt like I laid there for a few million years. It walked, or much rather skulked into my room. I heard its claws clatter across the hardwood floor before stopping. I couldn't see a damn thing, but I heard it howl once again before it sounded like it tore my bed to damn bits. I heard glass smash and a hard object collide with the walls. Then nothing. Complete silence once again before I heard it skulk off and leave the house. Probably to finish eating my friend. It's now 7 a.m. I can hear sirens outside, but I'm too afraid to leave, lest that thing is waiting for me on the other side of the door. The only thing I could do for the last few hours was type this out and do some research. But it didn't make any sense. I googled everything I remembered about the thing. I got a result and I'm fairly certain is what it is. It didn't make any damn sense. I read pages upon pages of this damn thing, looked at artwork, folklore, everything. It doesn't make sense. The research says the location of the creature is found in the United States, usually on Native American land. So what in the living hell is a goddamn Wendigo doing in rural New Zealand?